Well, good evening and thank you for joining me. I'm First Alert Meteorologist Jake Lambright. We got a lot to talk about, including some chilly mornings ahead before things start to get a little bit warmer heading into next week. And when I say warmer, don't worry, I'm not talking about 60s and 70s for lows and 90s for highs. We're past that at this point. Fingers crossed. Before the foreseeable future, we're past that. We will warm up a little bit next week. But before we get to that, of course, we've had some beneficial rains here over the past couple of weeks. And thankfully, in this week's drought monitor update, we have seen or got confirmation of improvement across central Louisiana. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this drought monitor here. Drought also improved in southeastern Louisiana as well. But we'll zoom in here to central Louisiana real quick, kind of take a closer look at some of the bigger changes for us here locally. You'll notice there's not as much tan on the map. That tan represents moderate drought conditions, which is a level 1 out of 4 on the drought monitor scale. The bright yellow indicates dry conditions, which are pre-drought conditions. So here's a look at some of the changes. Last week, we had that moderate drought kind of going right through our central areas. And now it's gone. I mean, here in Alexandria, we're not even under pre-drought conditions at this point. You'll notice here an area where, again, no pre-drought conditions, great improvement since last week. And we still do have level 1 drought conditions in the tan here across our southern row parishes, as well as Sabine and Natchitoches Parish. But again, overall, we have seen some improvement thanks to the rains that we've received over the last week. Now, next week's drought monitor will certainly be interesting to see if there's a little bit of an improvement or maybe if things get slightly worse. The reason for that, of course, we had rain on Tuesday. This drought monitor gets updated every Thursday, but the data gets pulled at 8 a.m. on Tuesday. That rain came after 8 a.m., so it didn't get factored into this week's update. We'll have to see if there's much of an improvement. Again, not everybody saw rain on Tuesday, so I don't expect to see a drastic improvement. With that said, too, we also will not really see anything in the way of rain chances through the rest of the week. I mean, I've got a 20% chance of rain on Saturday. Not super optimistic that we're going to see much rain, so probably not going to be a drastic change with next week's update. I do want to catch you up to speed with where we stand on rainfall. Here's a look at our percentage of normal precipitation for the month of October. Of course, we want to be as close to that 100% as we can. I'll zoom in here on our area locally so you can see it a little bit better. For those in yellow, we're pretty close to or right where we need to be, right near that 100%. I'll kind of highlight that area that I'm talking about here. If you're in the circled area, we're pretty close to where we need to be, or we're good when it comes to rainfall for the month of October. Then on the other hand, we've got this orange shading here. I'm going to do or try to outline that as much as I can. Those locations have seen about 50 to 75% of what's normal for the month of October. When we look back at the last 60 days or so, more of the area is slightly behind on rainfall. The light orange again representing 50 to 75% of what's normal. We need to be at 100%. And then for that slightly darker orange, that's 25 to 50%. That's areas like Sabine Parish, Natchitoches Parish, that southern row of parishes there at the bottom, which is where we have those level 1 out of 4 drought conditions. So things are improving. Don't have a lot of rain here for the foreseeable future, but if we get some more rain, of course, that will further help us out with some of those drought conditions that are left over. All right, with winds today, it felt a lot better out there. Highs were still in the 60s. We didn't have 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts blowing our hair out of place and making it cooler out there. Here across the state of Louisiana, gusts were around 20 to 25 miles per hour at their highest. Natchitoches saw a max gust of 21 miles per hour, a big improvement compared to a max gust of 37 miles per hour yesterday. And then Alexandria had a max wind gust of 22 miles per hour, and again, another big improvement over the 40-mile-per-hour gust that we saw yesterday afternoon. When it comes to current wind speeds right now, winds are calm across the area. Very nice out there. Of course, temperatures are cooling down, so not having that wind does help it feel a little bit nicer out there right now as things continue to cool down. Things will continue cooling pretty rapidly overnight tonight. Tomorrow morning is going to be one of the coolest over the next 7. Originally, I thought it would be the coolest. Got some new data in, looked through everything, and I really think now Monday morning's probably going to be the coolest by a couple degrees, but still a pretty chilly morning ahead tomorrow. Morning lows will be in the lower 40s across a good portion of the state, including all of us here in central Louisiana. The afternoon will be nice. Temperatures will top out in the upper 60s for afternoon highs tomorrow, so we're going to be struggling to reach 70 degrees. Your Halloween forecast is looking good, especially if you have early trick-or-treat plans like before the sun sets. If you're going after sunset night, I would definitely recommend taking that jacket. You'll notice how quickly the temperatures drop from the upper 60s around 5 p.m. to the upper 50s by 7, and those temps will continue dropping pretty rapidly. So like I said, don't go out there without that jacket because you will certainly want to keep it with you as you go about your trick-or-treating plans. Before we jump further into our low temperature trend, I want to remind you, if you want to pop into our Facebook chat and say hey or have any questions about the forecast, feel free to do so. I'll be answering those here in just a minute. I've been looking forward to seeing some of those there. All right, let's talk more about that low temp trend. 40 degrees I've got for our morning low tomorrow, then a little bit warmer for the weekend. 38 is what I have as our morning low on Monday, and then morning lows gradually increase. In fact, could be close to 50 degrees by Thursday morning. High temperatures over the next 7 days. We keep it in the 60s through the weekend. We do see 70s return, though, as we head into the middle part of next week. In fact, right now I've got our high temp on Monday at 67 degrees and our high on Tuesday at 73 degrees. So a bit of a jump there, closer to 80 by the end of the week. Don't quite think we're going to make it to 80 just yet, and really within that 10-day window as well. All right, let me readjust things because Melissa's kind of running off the map there. But right now, Hurricane Melissa is out there in the open waters of the Atlantic, still is a Cat 2 storm, and Melissa has sustained winds of around 105 miles per hour. Let's see if I can't get that track on the screen there. A new advisory will update here in a little while, but Melissa likely to stay at Cat 2 strength at its strongest, but really staying out there over the ocean and will eventually become a post-tropical cyclone likely by the time we get to this weekend. You can see there the left side of your screen, the east coast of the United States, so not expecting direct impacts, but some higher rip currents, plus maybe some higher waves will be possible. Here's another view of Melissa for you on infrared satellite, a better, more zoomed out view so you can kind of see it relative to the east coast of the United States. And again, Melissa going far away from the United States. Here's a look right now, things in Marksville from our Paragon Casino Resort camera. It's nice out there right now. Temperatures, of course, cooling down. Likely be in the 40s before midnight tonight. Some locations already hitting the 40s. 48 right now in Manny, 49 Natchitoches and Winfield, 53 still in Alexandria, 50 the current temperature right now over in Oakdale and Opelousas. As we go through the next few hours, like I said, 40s by midnight area wide. We're cooling down quickly. We'll be in the low 40s tomorrow morning. So I know I've said it a couple times, but don't forget that jacket. You will certainly want it as you head out the door. Might not even hurt to start that car a little bit earlier tomorrow because, again, this is going to be the chilliest weather we've seen so far this season. There's a look at your regional hometown lows for tonight. And again, before we dive into that first alert 7-day forecast, 10-day forecast, if you have any questions, this is your last call to ask some of those. I'll be watching those here. You can ask those questions in our Facebook chat over on the KALB news page. All right, let's get a look here at First Alert 7-day forecast. Again, we are in the 60s through the weekend. Warming up, though, next week. 70s start back up for afternoon highs on Tuesday. Still very, very nice out there. And I know we're inching closer and closer to 80 by Thursday of next week. Not optimistic at this time that we'll reach 80. Again, a lot can change. So we'll be fine-tuning that forecast, of course, giving you the first alert as we learn more. Morning lows tomorrow morning start off in the low 40s, mid 40s for the weekend, and then by Monday morning could be the coolest weather again of the season, starting out in the upper 30s. Things get warmer for their morning lows as well, back to the low 50s by Thursday morning, which would put us a lot closer to average for this time of the year. Rest of next week looking pretty good. Friday, Saturday, Sunday as well. We keep it in the 70s with nice and pleasant conditions. And that there is a look at your full First Alert 10-day forecast. Don't see any questions here to the side, so I'm going to finish preparing for our 10 o'clock show. You can watch that on our smart TV apps or on the air on NBC. Looking forward to seeing you there, hopefully. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Y'all have a great Thursday night and a great weekend ahead.